Hey, how we doing everybody? It's Matt Moda here with OddsJam. And what I'm going to be doing in this video, I have 3 NFL bets for you guys to lock in. 3 bets found using OddsJam, using the positive expected value page. This wasn't planned, but they also happen to be 3 totals bets, which is kind of funny. Wasn't planned, just kind of worked out that way, but figured we could get into it. The first one that I'm going to lock in here is this under 44 in the Vikings versus Bills game. So I'm going to go ahead. This is minus 115 at BetMGM. I would like to put a full unit on this one. Unfortunately, I'm unable to. I can get $11.57. But for those of you at home, should be worth a full unit play on this one. So let's chat about it. Number one, it's positive EV. Shows up on the OddsJam positive expected value page. The OddsJam calculates the perfect line, no vig odds on this to be at about minus 120. And this can be viewed as the sharpest line in the world in terms of how a market should truly be priced. So this total, this under 44, should truly be priced at about minus 120, and we can get it. BetMGM is giving it to us at minus 115. So that gap is where you get your positive expected value from. Of course, every bet on this page is going to be positive EV, or else it wouldn't show up on the page. There's additional stuff that you can do outside of just seeing whether it's on the positive EV page or not, to kind of give yourself a higher level of comfort or maybe a higher unit size on the bet itself. One of those things is if you click into a play, it pulls up odds where every sportsbook prices this specific play at the under 44. And we're basically trying to see, all right, is the bet that we are placing an outlier or not? If yes, that means it's a good bet. So this one, yeah, it's a pretty good outlier here. Bet Rivers has it at minus 124, Bet 365 at minus 125, Tipico at minus 130, and then this is important, Pinnacle / the OddsJam line has it at minus 133. But another thing you can do is if you view the event page in a new tab, it pulls up where every sportsbook is not only pricing that individual play, so we got the under 44, but it also prices where every sportsbook prices this total at in general. So let me actually zoom out here so I can fit everything on the screen. So we did have to accept 5 points of juice on this one. We had to buy a half point, getting the play at minus 115. But look at the value on that 5 cents. So Pinnacle, as I mentioned, is this sportsbook up here. Pinnacle is the sharpest sportsbook in the world, right? And they price the under 43.5 at minus 124. Still a good price, right? We could still get a good line under 43.5. And I might take that so I can get more than $11 on this bet. But if you just go up a half point, you go from 43.5 to 44. Like I mentioned, BetMGM only gives you 5 cents of juice. Bet Rivers gives you 10 cents of juice. Tipico also only gives you 5 cents, but they're starting at such a low number that there's no value there. And Pinnacle basically makes this going up half a point worth 9 cents of juice. So BetMGM only charging an additional 5 cents is actually a really good price on this one. So that's why I like this minus 115 play at minus 110 odds. Of course, like I mentioned, it is another good play to get the under 43.5 at minus 110 odds at WinBet and Ballybet as well. If you don't want to sacrifice those 5 cents, I think it's worth it because look at where all the other books price it. 43.5 is where most books price it, and some of them even have it priced favoring the under at the 43.5, like Betfred. FanDuel heavily favors the under at 43.5, pricing it at minus 132. Tipico favors the under at minus 125, as does Bet Rivers at minus 114. FoxBet, minus 143. I already mentioned Pinnacle. And most books, looks like they have the true line of this, either 43.5 or 43. But the 2 books that I wanted to highlight, Bookmaker and BetOnline, because those are 2 of the sharpest sports books in the world, they have this priced at 43, so a full point lower than what we got it at. And they both favor the under. They have the under as the more likely scenario at a full point lower. And it looks like Pinnacle has the main line of this at about 42.5, so a full point and a half lower. And they still favor the under at 42.5. They still have the under as the more likely scenario. So buying that extra half point gave us a ton of value. So I love this play, Vikings versus Bills, under 44, minus 115 odds at BetMGM. I also like it for handicapping purposes. The Bills have the number 1 defense in the NFL. Even though they're going to be missing some players like safety Jordan Poyer, not scared off from the Bills defense. Offensively, things could be a little rough. They're most likely going to be missing Josh Allen, and who knows what Case Keenum is going to be able to do with that offense. I'm not expecting a ton of points scored in this game. I could imagine it being a pretty gross game without Josh Allen and how good the Bills defense is. So the under being the play here makes a ton of sense from handicapping purposes. Of course, the most important thing is the math and the odds themselves, but I just like it when my handicapping adds up with the positive EV play. So that is the first one that I'm locking in. The next one that I'm going to lock in, we're staying with BetMGM, so we'll see what they let me get on this one. Another alternate total, Jaguars versus Chiefs over 49.5, minus 120 odds. Let me go back to the NFL. I'm looking to go to the Jaguars versus Chiefs game. We're looking at the total over 49.5, minus 120 odds. Another play that I would like to get a full unit on, and we will see how much they accept. So at least they let me get $60 on this one, a more reasonable amount. But again, for those of you at home, worth a unit play. Same thing here. Let's talk about it. No big odds. Price this at minus 125. If we can round up, if you will let me round up from 124.81, round this up to minus 125. BetMGM gives it to us at minus 120. So again, a positive EV play that BetMGM is giving to us at minus 120 odds. So we know it's positive EV. Just wanted to mention that. The additional research that I want you guys to do, that I like to do before placing bets, look at all the other sports books. BetMGM minus 120. No book has it below minus 130. And if we look at like Pinnacle, sharpest line in the world, at minus 138, and across the board, minus 150, minus 134, minus 130, minus 142, minus 142, and then the aforementioned minus 130. So even though we, again, are buying a point on this one, BetMGM, for whatever reason, doesn't charge as much juice going up or down points, which gives us a ton of value buying some points. So let's view this one in the new tab. Let's see what we're looking at here. Of course, remember that the far right, these lines here are Pinnacle. So just remember that. So we took the over 49.5 at minus 120. So it looks like the main line for most of these books have it at either 50.5 or 51. Going from the main line of minus 110 to the alternate line at minus 120, what we got it at, BetMGM only charged 10 cents total. Pinnacle thinks that's worth 18 cents of juice going from those two numbers. And then we look at the two sharp books, Bookmaker and BetOnline, these two books right here, which you can see, they price this at 51, so 1.5 points higher than what we ended up getting it at, and they both favor the over. So I might take the over 50.5 at minus 107 on Circa, just so I can round out the full unit that I would like to put on this one, because right now I only have $60 roughly risked on this one. But regardless, another awesome price that we found using BetMGM, taking advantage of the low juice that they charge going from buying or selling points. From handicapping purposes, I mean, this one's obvious. The Chiefs offense is the best in the NFL. Granted, they had a tough, hard-fought game last week against the Titans. I don't necessarily expect the Jaguars to be able to do what the Titans did, and ETN should continue to have success on the Chiefs defense, which is kind of hit or miss. They had a good game last week in terms of at least their pass defense. They still got lit up by Derrick Henry, but going against Malik Willis, who literally couldn't complete a pass to a wide receiver, makes it a lot easier to crack down on Derrick Henry eventually. So this play makes sense. Chiefs, Jaguars over 49.5. And the last play that I'm going to lock in here is the over 48.5 in the Dolphins versus Browns game. This is at minus 110 odds at Ballybet. This one I should be able to get a full unit on. Once they verify my location, I will try to get a full unit. So we go. Location has been confirmed. Bet has been placed. So I was able to do that. Let me just add this one to my bet tracker. So OddsJam has a bet tracker that's completely free to use. You can also sync your sports books. So this one I manually added because Ballybet we can't sync right now. BetMGM I didn't need to manually add because I already have my BetMGM account linked. So this play, no big odds at about minus 112. We got it at minus 110. Positive EV. Look across the board. Minus 122 at Pinnacle. Bet Rivers, the closest 7 cents higher at minus 117. Most books have it in the minus 120s. And since this one is a main line, the difference between all the sports books isn't going to be as high because there's so much action on these mainline bets, like a total, like a spread, like a money line. But the edges that you can find on these mainline bets are very valuable. So if we look at the other books and where they price this one, so we got the over 48.5 at -110 at Ballybet. Looks like every other sports book has their main line above this amount at 49, 49.5, or 50.5. So same thing. We want to compare to Pinnacle, 49.5, 1 point higher. Bookmaker, 49.5, 1 point higher. Same thing with Bet Online, 49.5. So all in all, another awesome play. And the Dolphins, they have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They have one of the best offenses in the NFL. That leads to points. The concern here, of course, is if the Browns can play ball control offense and just run the clock down, limit the number of possessions in the game, makes this one a little bit concerning just from a time of possession and a pace metric. But in terms of how these two teams play, in terms of like their offensive skills versus their defensive skills, should lead to points. You just have to hope that the Browns don't totally milk the clock. But regardless, this is going to be my third and final pick for today for this video. So if you are tailing, let me know. Comment on the video with your feedback. Would love to hear it. But that's all I got. So I do appreciate you guys watching, and have a good one.